Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Yeah. So I was asked to do this presentation about 4 months ago, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. I've got progressively more nervous as the time's gone on. I work from home full time as well, interestingly. So first time I've been wearing a shirt for at least a year. So yeah, I thought it would be really, it's about just taking you through our story over the last year. It's been quite an interesting journey for us. Just quickly run you through the content on my slides, but just to give you a bit of background on the NHS Business Services Authorities. Realise probably it's a kind of new area to you, but to talk through my background and kind of how that shapes some of my philosophies as we've gone into recruiting a team to help us deliver a data quality program over the last year. A quick introduction to the team, and then stepping through what our quality journey has looked like so far, a year in basically. And then really talking about how we deliver our processes, but also how we drive engagement from that. We have quite a lot of nice relationships with our stakeholders, so to talk you through how we've gone about driving that sort of nice set of relationships, talk through the engagement that we have and how we've done some more and extensive external networking. And then really just talk through some of the experiences we've had, so some of the challenges, some of the solutions that we put in place to overcome those, and also just step through some of the things that have worked well. And then finally just to wrap up with what we've got planned next for this coming year. So in terms of the NHS BSA, so we're an arm's length body of the Department of Health and Social Care. We deliver a wide range of national services of support, so you can see there we cover primary care, the NHS workforce and also UK citizens, and we manage £43 billion of annual NHS spend, and we're all about the data basically. So you can imagine we generate huge amounts of data, we look after that data, we have to curate that and really be on top of that data quality, making sure it's absolutely fit for purpose. In terms of how we divide ourselves then, so we have two main kind of externally focused sets of services, so primary care services and citizen services. You'll probably recognise a lot of activities in there. You've probably used a lot of those services yourselves. If you've been on holiday anytime recently, I'm sure you've applied for a global health insurance card. Internally, we have the workforce services, so we look after loans for student nurses. We have the NHS jobs platform, all of our staff data, and then I sit within data and insight as part of a data strategy, data management team. So we're completely focused on the data. Thought I'd put some of our headline numbers up there just to give you a sense of scale. I've flagged a few of them because even in the space of the last year, we've been actively data profiling some of these data sets. So if I look at pensions, Nick's just starting to get his head wrapped around some of the challenges that we have with our pension data sets, and he was telling me today that he's been, is it 30 rules you've been given to look at in the first instance, and you've managed to figure out the logic for 29 over the last 2 weeks. So, but yeah, I think we've just literally finished handing over the analysis for the global health insurance cards to the business to start looking at what actions they need to take. What else did I put out there? Yeah, call centre data. So we've had an apprentice working with us for the last 4 months, and we've been getting him to look at call centre data, analysing it without the Datactics software, but Nick's been running in parallel checks and balances on his work just as an additional use case, and also keeping the apprentice in check. So in terms of my career history then, just kind of where I started, where it's led me to. I've been actively employed for 25 years, most of that working in the utilities industry. And I guess there's no such thing as a straightforward career path. So if I look at mine, I've worked all over the place within one organisation. I've been promoted, I've gone sideways, I've been demoted. You just kind of roll with kind of whatever change throws at you. And I think certainly working in a large organisation, you learn more about yourself in terms of the skills that you accumulate as you move through the roles. So when I finally ended up in data management, I realised that actually the sum total of all of the experiences and skills that I've got is actually what allows me to be really quite comfortable and actually really quite enjoy the work that I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the key message on there, transferable skills are everything. You know, when you're looking to move from one role to another, yes, change may be forced on you, but when I left the utilities industry and I was looking for a new job and I had to rely on my own skills, you know, I was a jack of all trades, not master of anything, and I think all of those skills that I've got is what's allowed me to kind of hopefully be effective. I'm sure Nick will tell me otherwise as a data manager. Yeah, and my takeaway there is I absolutely love coming to work every day. I genuinely do. I never really felt that before, so it's taken me a long time. I wouldn't advise taking that long to get to this point. So yeah, in terms of how that translates into a recruitment strategy. So if I think about my own experiences, how did I motivate myself? What skills did I think that I had that would make me suitable to apply to be initially a data governance specialist? And I had to present or deliver a presentation at interview on how my career path had led me into data governance. So I've kind of reflected on that a lot and really sort of deploy that thought process when I think about who do I want to recruit into the team. If I think about the skills that I had, and they're not really traditional data quality type skills, at least in my mind anyway. I think, well, how can I open up the pool, and how can I potentially target more people who might be interested in doing this kind of work? And really was thinking about the job description, how do I make it attractive, steer away from the technical side of things, steer away from coders, steer away from analysts, and start to think about the skills that really people could bring to the role. So what I look for when I recruit internally, a lot of it is about experience. I'm thinking about what networks do people have, their business knowledge, how much they understand about the NHS. When I look externally, like I said, I'm not looking at technical skills, I'm looking more at the kind of rounded skills. I'm thinking about people who've got enthusiasm, they've got passion, and they're excellent presenters, basically. So you get that kind of connection at interview. It's more about how people say what they're saying necessarily, rather than what they're saying. That's how I think about that. So in terms of our data governance team, I had a bit of fun putting this slide together, just trying to find a few cartoons of the team. But yeah, it's just, I mean, you can see the backgrounds that the guys in the team have got. You wouldn't look at those and say they were traditional routes into data governance, into data quality. But that's the backgrounds that we have, and the kind of skills and the attributes that they have. When I start to flick through these, and you kind of see them popping up, and maybe they start to resonate a little bit, and you think, well, these guys are all great networkers, they're great talkers, they're great at engaging with people. These are skill sets that they all demonstrate, and they really help us when we go out to talk to people in the business, and it really helps us to be effective. So I wasn't going to include this slide, and I was chatting with Matt and Jill a few weeks ago, and they said, you've told us a story, so you've got to turn it into a slide. So I was taking my daughter to gym, and this big screw fix lorry pulled out in front of us, and I just kind of flippantly said, I wonder how many screws you can fit in that lorry. And she's like, Dad, it's the summer holidays, I'm not doing schoolwork, it's not happening. So I wouldn't let it be anyway. I kind of obsess about these things myself, so I can call other people out for it. But basically it's kind of starting to work through a problem. So you think about the size of the lorry, you think about the screw size, and you kind of go through the steps, and you think what that process looks like, and you've got a good understanding of the problem, and you work your way through it, and ultimately you get to the answer. And it doesn't really matter what the answer is, to be honest. I don't really care. It's more about the problem. How do you work through that? What is your mindset like? What kind of logical problem-solving process do you go through? Because actually that's the process that you deploy day in, day out in your work as a data profiler when you're looking at data quality, that you're coming up against these business problems. And when we kind of chuck these kind of ideas around the team, I realised that, most of them are like me. They do obsess about stuff like this, so it's good. You're thinking about problems all the time. It's a good grounding. So our data quality journey so far then, so if I just think back to the graphic there from my earlier slide about my career history. So this is my time within the NHS Business Services Authority. And I've just put a timeline together just to kind of show that sort of journey that we've been on. And really there's been 3 key factors to our success so far. So the first one was to initiate a project team. So we recognised that we had issues with our data quality, we understood the problems, we recognised that we had to do something about it. We had to pull together a data quality kind of target operating model. How did we do that? What support did we need? And it was really key to get a project team on board early, to kind of give us that challenge, to ask us the questions and really get us to articulate the problem that we had, so that we could pull together a compelling case to present to our investment committee. So for me, that was absolutely the first thing that was important to nail. We then ran a pilot. So when we engaged with Datactics, and we decided that Datactics was our partner of choice, to us. We didn't want to fully commit just based on kind of the marketing pitch, if you like, and what we've seen in the demonstration. We were really keen to see it in practice and actually implement the software and go through the process of running it for real, but just over a short time span, just with some very specific targets in mind. And really, we stress test it. I think we'd learned loads. We kind of really, I think, did as much as we could to demonstrate that it delivered that potential that we kind of hoped it would deliver. And the final point was around recruiting the right people. So back to previous slides, the people that you have in your team are the absolute core of success. Technology is part of it, processes a lot, but I find people are absolutely fundamental to making sure that your data quality kind of journey really bears fruit. So a year ago, I was sat here, as Stuart and Jill said, I was, I think, probably the newest client amongst your portfolio, and we got a few shout outs, and me and Nick were really quite proud to hear our names mentioned. But year's a long time, and we've done a lot of kind of service development over that time. We've learnt an awful lot. We've done an awful lot of networking. We've had successes along the way. So it feels like a great story so far, but it's not the end. Absolutely not. We've got a continuous improvement methodology that we kind of run through everything we do. So every meeting, as far as I'm concerned, is an opportunity to kind of think about what you've done, what went well, what didn't. Every interaction is an opportunity to improve, and we really embrace that. We're always thinking about how can we deliver our service more effectively, how can we do it better. So that is kind of the fourth factor of success, and then we're just really now turning our thoughts towards ADQ, so coming away from the self-service data quality platform and thinking about what the next steps look like. You don't get too hung up. I know you Datactics guys will be looking at the timelines there. They're just for example. We're not quite there yet. So when we go out and engage with people, how do you get your message across to all these audiences? What kind of familiarity of message do you want to get out? And we always start with this diagram. So we created it during the pilot, and it just outlines a 9-step simple process from starting to engage and thinking about known issues all the way through to realising benefits. I won't step through the stages because you'll hopefully be familiar with the kind of the general process, but we use this to engage with our customers within the organisation. It's really effective. We find that it works with senior leaders, we find that it works with groups of peers, we find that it works with subject matter experts, and all we really do is just flex the narrative around it, so we kind of step up or down the detail depending on who it is we're talking to, but we find that really effective. It's people have various kind of focus of interest, I guess, on various steps, but that's good. We sort of know all the answers, but we understand the process to have good conversations. So then when we think about then building that engagement and driving advocacy, for me the engagement comes internally, and that's through two main audiences. So we have a lot of people that we work with directly. That's our subject matter experts, our data assets administrators, data stewards, team leaders and so on, people who are really familiar with the day-to-day running of a service, but also the issues that service has. We really focus on having positive interactions and really kind of developing that sense of community between our team and the business team. So we always go along, 3 of us, myself, Nick, and whoever it is that's doing the data profiling. So we feel like we can, pitch our service, sell our service, answer questions, explain it end to end, but we don't feel like we have to come away thinking, well, we didn't know that answer, we've got to go back to them, or we forgot to ask this. We cover that kind of stuff off. So that's how we really drive our internal conversations with our key stakeholders. But we do a lot of showcasing, a lot of promotion. We've done detailed walkthrough of the process with the analyst community across the NHS BSA. We've delivered case studies to celebrate some of our successes with our peers. We've also delivered really quite big presentations right across the directorate. So I think 250 is our biggest audience so far. Not quite as nerve-wracking as this because that was over a video. That was comfortable. Let's put my hand over the number so I couldn't see it. We write a lot of blogs as well, so we try and make things relatable. And actually, Nick delivers really quite a good live demo. So he has a set of dummy data that he utilises to really showcase what the software can do. And we've run that with some of our peer communities just to really kind of interact with them to demonstrate the kind of problems that we're able to solve. And actually, when we do it internally, it gets people thinking about the problems that they have and how they can relate their issues to the way in which we potentially can help them. And then Externally, mostly the work is around our role that we play in the government data quality community. So there's a large community of interests, data leaders, data specialists, people who just have that general interest in data across various roles in government departments and organisations. We meet up once a month, we discuss issues on the video calls, we have breakout calls, and invariably, whenever me or Nick start talking about the work we're doing, people want to hear more. So actually, a lot of the networking has come about from that community. And we find that actually the benefit of talking to them is that it gives us the confidence we're doing the right thing. You know, it generally resonates with people, so that gives us the confidence to keep innovating and keep kind of taking those next steps. And that's just a range of who we've been talking to over the last 12 months. So one-to-one conversations with all those government departments and organisations across the top, and then maybe a few of them in the middle as well, but also people who've been in the audience when we presented at data governance conferences as well. So the kind of challenges that we faced, because it's not easy rolling out data quality, there's a lot of issues that you do come up against. I've tried to break them out into 3 main areas based around kind of where they tend to sit in the process. So if I think about right at the start, that's where our knowledge sits, that's where our skills are, that's where our rule writing expertise sits. The last thing I want is to lose members of the team, and I don't want members of the team becoming disinterested and bored as well, so I have to think about how that part of it gets managed. There's the centre section, I call it kind of the meat of the process, but it's where we've finished rule building, we're sharing the analysis with the business, we're talking through the actions, and we're trying to get that commitment to actions, but like I say, it's sharing the output as well, and that can be quite contentious. And you look at some of the things that I've put up there, we've had people in our audience not wanting to see the percentage associated to the data, so they're happy to see what we've looked at and what we found, but not have a percentage assigned to it. So we've had to delete a column out of a table. We've had other people that have had really good data quality and want to see that percentage back in again. So you can't always win. We had one particularly contentious meeting where I inadvertently used the word failure. I mean, you use the word, don't you? Data quality failure. It didn't go down well. So mid-meeting, had to change the language. What do we call it? It was records that did not meet the specified criteria. And I was constantly tripping over that, but I stuck with it, and we saw the meeting out, but it wasn't pleasant. We steer clear of rags. I mean, that's definitely a no-no. People like to see green, but of course life isn't green, is it? So it's just safer to avoid it. We had one particular senior stakeholder, we were presenting a written report back, and we misspelled a medical term, hadn't realised, and instead of focusing on what we were saying, he was scrolling ahead, and because he was able to edit the document, because he had access to it, he was spell checking and editing the document while we were presenting it. It's just things to avoid, it's not pleasant. We had one team who didn't want us to report anything at all until they fixed everything we found. As long as they fixed it, it's not a problem really, but and we get challenged on our purpose. Why are we there? Who are we? What's our motivation? Are we auditors? Are we there to hold them to account? Not really. We're there to help you, basically. That's fundamentally it. And then there's a difficult bit at the end around actions. Once you've agreed them, how do you get them over the line? How do you get them move forwards? It's not always easy. There's operational priorities. And actually there's quite a lot of parties involved within the delivery of some of our actions, so we find that we have external stakeholders to work with as well, and it's not straightforward and it can take time, so we don't push the timescale. We're more interested in making sure the right actions are selected and that there's ownership and accountability to take those forwards. So yeah, the kind of things that we've done then to overcome some of those problems. Well, I'm fortunate that I have two ex-teachers in the team. Huge amount of skills that they have, and developing our own training material and being able to stand alone, and when it comes to bringing people into the team, we're self-sufficient. We have people that, Nick, look at Nick basically to lead this for me, but Nick takes the new starters under his wing and really shows them the ropes, understand how the software works, how it kind of how you build the rules, and then homework tasks. They're maybe not that, but they kind of feel like that. But it's lots of little kind of opportunities to practice data profiling. And we have side hustles as well. So we have one member of the team has been working through a Power BI course for 3 days and starting to build some dashboards for us. We have somebody else who's completed a series of night classes to learn SQL to help us with some of the sort of data preparation. Reporting and culture, I mentioned the few things when I was talking to you earlier on, but it's kind of trying to stay neutral, stepping away from Word. We had one scenario where we actually finished a report and we put all of the findings written into an email, sent it out. There was no contention with that. It was absolutely fine. Everyone was happy. And then we dropped it into a Word document and handed that over at the end. And they didn't like it. Who are you sharing this with? What's your audience? And it's like, well, it's the same. Nothing's changed. It's just perception. So we steer clear. I think PowerPoint, we can tell a better story. So we kind of approach it that way. We don't do league tables. We have one really, really strong positively say outcome from data quality. It was high, it was green, as green can be. He was determined that we should have a league table so he could be at the top of it. But if you're at the top, someone has to be at the bottom, and then it's a hard conversation. So yeah, I won't kind of labour all those points. I just highlighted a couple there because those are the things that tend to come up, and actually they're quite easily answered. So people don't want us necessarily to report data quality. They don't want us focusing in on what's bad, whereas actually our perspective is all about the baseline is what it is. We want you to be open. We want you to share your issues with us. We'll tell you how bad they are, what the scaling is. But all we want to do is to work with you to improve that data quality. So actually we'll only hold you to account if you agree the actions and you're not prioritising them, you're not delivering them, and you're not receiving the benefit. That's when we're interested. So yes, the delta is our focus. It's not the baseline. And in terms of who owns the benefits from the work, well, it's the business. We're there to facilitate that. We don't want to own that. We're just there to work with them and give them the opportunity to get those benefits realised. And finally, just the last slide, just in terms of how we move on from where we're at currently, I really feel like we've got a strong process. I think we're comfortable with operating steps 1 to 7 on that diagram, which effectively takes us from understanding what the business issues are all the way through to agreeing the actions. The difficulty then is around the prioritisation, the delivery of those actions, and also then realising the benefits. But we're determined that we're going to have an impact. So this year has really been about setup and reputation and engagement. These next 12 months now is to start consolidating those actions, really focus on getting the subject matter experts, data asset owners to really own these actions and take full accountability for the delivery of them. Because if we can achieve that, that's what gets us our data quality improvements. If we're improving our data quality, then we'll be able to track the benefits alongside that and actually start to realise some of that and report that as real, genuine, tangible success, not just all the kind of the good story part, which is kind of where we're at the moment. And then finally is to report that, to get that shared, to get those positive messages shared with our kind of broader set of stakeholders and to our senior managers. So yeah, that was my final slide. Hopefully that's of interest. That's the way that we'll do it.
Thank you, Tony. We're going to allow for questions to be loaded onto Slido when we show the Slido link, and we have an opportunity at the end. I have a couple of questions just on the way through, and if anyone else from Datactics would like to pitch in with a question at this point, please do. I'm interested in how you now intend, this last slide links to it, how you now intend to keep momentum in your BAU so that you don't become those DQ auditors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like I said, one of the key things for us is it's about making sure that we have engagement from start to finish. So 9-step process, it doesn't finish when we hand the actions to the business. We want to keep monitoring those. We want to hear about the successes they're having. So if we don't hear from them, we put meetings in the diary. But one of the things we actually try and do is to actually encourage them to share their successes with us. So the work that we've already done, that continues to bear benefits, we continue to sustain those relationships, and actually often the people we're working with, we would work with again. We'd want to come back into those same areas, but also they're responsible for more than one critical data asset, some of them. Okay. So you want to make sure that those relationships are positive and strong. But we've got 76 critical data assets to work through. We are, I don't know, 8 or 9 in, something like that. Wow. So there's a long way to go, years worth, unless we start recruiting.
And with 76 CDEs, how did you decide where to start?
In the pilot phase, we chose 3 that allowed us to, there's a few reasons actually, wanted to stress test the software. So we picked different sizes, different complexities of critical data assets. We went for ones that we also knew had known business issues, but also had particularly user-friendly audiences. So we didn't need to kind of do too much of a hard sell to them to start with. But then as we started to work our way through, some of it's word of mouth, some of it we've been asked to go in and deliver presentations to senior leadership teams within the business. And when we talk to them, they've potentially come back to us with opportunities. Within our broader team, we have data business partners as well, and those guys are kind of, they're outwardly facing, they're liaising with the sort of business leads all the time, so they're very familiar with business issues. So if they see opportunities for us, they proactively come to us. Sometimes if we're running out of work, or we know we're starting to run out of work, then we ask for suggestions. But I think now it's starting, we're seeing opportunities for ourselves. The more interaction we have, the further we get out into the business. Yeah, exactly. Into those remaining 76, the more conversations we have, the more opportunities we see. We just started to look at hormone replacement therapy, prepayment certificates, and that's only come about because it's a brand new service. It went live about 2 or 3 months ago. We thought actually, while the project team are still floating around, if we can get in there early and have a look at the data quality before too much data accumulates, there's an opportunity to put fixes in when the technical leads are still knocking around as well, because otherwise you're looking at data cleanse, potentially some process fixes, but system fixes are harder. There's money and there's time and there's prioritisation and scheduling to go with that. So
you're striking while the iron's hot.
But it's a variety of angles, but starting to leverage relationships, I think, building our engagement that way.
And just one question leading into what Kieran's going to discuss now. The decision around technology toolkit for your programme, way back when you were starting to plan the programme, how early did you have those considerations? And what were you considering when you were selecting?
So I guess we were fortunate in a way that another part of our organisation was looking to bring in a new data platform, and as part of that use case, they wanted as many people as possible to utilise it. And there was an opportunity for us to do some data profiling within that particular tooling. I mean, ultimately, because that tooling wasn't fit for purpose of data profiling, we didn't go with it, but it made us realise what we did want. So when we were writing the business case for what we did want,
wasn't that?
No, it wasn't that. But it was, it's things like talking about the recruitment pool. What people do you want into the team? Adamant, I didn't want to go down the technical route. I didn't want coders. Didn't want people who were just kind of clued up on all these languages, but not necessarily conversant with sort of business terminology and problem solving. So I wanted a no-code solution. That was absolute number one priority. The other aspects were around budget, but also thinking about where the data was stored. Could we have control over it? And those factors were kind of key. So when we were writing our business case, those were the kind of priorities. And then when we went to use the government G Cloud and looking at all the various options, it just happened. We had a good
insight.
Good insight into what capabilities were out there, so we were able to factor in all of that into our business case.
And do you have plans then to build it wider than DQ from our?
So we're looking at other software for other data management activities. So we're starting to look at data cataloging. We have an enterprise tool for data dictionaries, but if we can have a data management platform, we feel like, that covers data catalog, data dictionary. We're looking at implementing a data quality incident management process as well. So, if there is a one-size-fits-all fab, if it has to be 3 or 4 different pieces of software, as long as they all hang together and do what we need, doesn't really matter what the answer is, as long as it hangs together and allows us to deliver better value.
Thank you. Any questions that are pressing, or? Okay.
Tony, I've got a question for you. When it comes to doing the data corrections that you have to do, how do you persuade the data owners to allow you to make big changes in source, or do you persuade them to make changes?
We don't access the source data, so that's one of the things that we don't do. So we don't utilise the DQC part of the software. So we knew right from the outset that we wouldn't be able to go in and hook into the source data. So our focus on the output initially is around the data cleanse. the more complex actions that we're finding, which is around process fixes, that's where we've got so many stakeholders. It just takes longer to work through. So we see the kind of value of our work is more about supporting existing cases. So where there are known business issues, we're really taking the angle of we can scale some of that and provide some of the supporting evidence to get some of these business cases over the line. So yeah, not kind of, there's not an automatic intervention to data cleansing. I know there's definitely value in that, but I think the sensitivity of a lot of it being patient data, citizen data, it's just, it's a minefield, if you like. How do you know whether you're overwriting something that may well be correct already? So there's just that kind of human intervention, if you like, with the cleansing activity that we carry out.
Can I ask a connected question? The 6 or so CVEs that you've done so far, have any of them come back and asked for remeasurement? And have you been able to understand the recommendations that you made have resulted in improvement?
We're not quite at that point yet. We're nearly there. So I guess the ones that are furthest down the line, we've been looking at infected blood. So we've been looking at a lot of the kind of address type data, postcode type data with that. The problem we always have is that there is so much going on in that space, having done the work, trying to get kind of competing operational priorities with us kind of saying, come on, cleanse some of these things. It's really hard. And the same with our hospital trust data as well. We feel like we're a long way down the line. We wrote about, I think, just over 20 rules for them. We keep pushing to say, can we do a rerun? Can we show you how much progress we've made? And they're adamant. They don't want any kind of giveaways until they get to the end. And you could say, well, that's nice. Part of it might be avoidance tactics. They're not actually doing anything at all. But we've had some nice conversations, and relationships still strong. But I mean, we've kind of talked to ourselves to say, really, we're getting to the point where don't want to say that we're going to run and just have a little look and not tell them, but we want to try and drive that into a line of conversation that says, look, you've been working through these actions for the last 3 or 4 months. Let's make sure that you're taking the right steps. Let's check that the impact that you believe you're having is actually being manifested in an improved set of data quality. So we're trying to drive that, and it comes through to the end part of the diagram there, those kind of final couple of steps. That's the difficult part. Like I said, I think we've nailed the process. It's just that kind of, it's the accountability, it's the ownership of the actions. Are we seeing it? Yes and no, but I really want to sit down and have some strong conversations with some of them to demonstrate that the value of the work that they've done is actually paying off. I mean, the worst thing would be that they're fixing all this data, but not fixing the process, so then coming in at the front end is the continuation. So we're trying to work on methods to, when we rerun rules, is to look at the aging and the kind of persistence of certain records. So how long have they been there for each time you run a rule? Was it there a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or is it actually data cleanse is fine and that process is working fantastically, but actually the process is not fixed, so you're still getting all of these failures coming through, so your data quality doesn't improve. So it's just a kind of maturity of thought, if you like. I think we've got it, but it's trying to have that good conversation with the business is that a little bit harder.
Come back next year and tell us.
Yeah.
Yes, one from the floor.
I've got a quick one. Just in terms of your process, whether it's from yourself or your broader team, did you look at any of the data governance capabilities first before you started diving into data quality? And what I mean by that is, did you set up the ownership first, and you set the policies and standards? And
all that was done first. So before my time, fortunately, because I think that's quite a difficult piece of work. Yeah, no, I joined the NHS BSA 2.5 years ago, and my predecessor, she started that journey, so maybe 4 years ago, but that was about kind of really pitching the data governance as a kind of capability, if you like, getting the leadership team to really understand what that meant, why it should be important to them, why they should value it, and what it would require of them. And then it was a case of, my boss having been recruited into place, she recruited a couple of people to get the process or the services up and running. So that was about creating a data asset register, getting a data dictionary kind of piece of software into place, and gradually starting that. But I mean, that's part of my focus as well. That's part of my broader role. It's just that data quality is more interesting. Spent more time looking at that this last 18 months than data governance. I haven't forgotten about it. That's next. That's next. Yeah.
Okay.
How is the health data, the PII data and the health data? Is it masked? Is it tokenized? So before tokenizing, do you do DQ?
Nick's probably better because he's better in the detail and all that kind of stuff.
So, depending on which elements of data, depending on what we're looking for as a data quality issue, so if we're looking at a specific field, we're not going to be looking at a version of that that's been pseudonymized or tokenized anyway, so we need to look at the raw data. If we're looking at related data, but we therefore need those fields, say, as a source of primary key, we would then work with a pseudonymized version of that data and only actually have the raw data come through for us to look at, if that makes sense.
Okay, so this is like data at rest, but this is more data condition, right?
So we, in terms of the version of the data that we work with, we have the raw data comes in and it gets loaded into our data warehouse.
Yeah.
It then goes through the ETL process. We work with a copy of the data before it's undergone any ETL process, so it's as raw as it can be without it being in the original complete source system, and risk of causing problems there.
So you do all the standardization, cleansing, deduplication, everything happens, and then it gets tokenized and it goes
Yes.
further down.
Yeah.
We are next year, Nick. Okay, thank you, Tony. We really appreciate it.
I've used more than 25 minutes.
That's no problem. It's very useful. Thank you.